What's going on, everybody? Today is a big day for Bitcoin. Today is the halving. It's only a few hours away. By the time you watch this, it may have already taken place. Now we have some good news I want to talk about and some not so good news, and we're going to go over both of them. For one, we're seeing outflows from the spot Bitcoin ETFs, but on the positive, a record amount of Bitcoin hodlers added Bitcoin to their accumulation addresses. But let me know how you guys are feeling as we approach the halving. We're looking at a decent day today for the Bitcoin miners. I would be a little hesitant here. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Bitcoin miners sell off. This be a little bit of a liquidity grab. But let's go over the chart for some Bitcoin miners. We're going to look at Bitcoin as well, and we're going to go over those bearish and bullish news pieces. And let's get started. If you guys like videos like this, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. Check out the links down below for some free stocks and cryptos, and everything I go over will be down below for you in the description. And first off, let's look at Bitcoin, and my chart might look a little different than yours. And this is a different type of candle. This is a Heikin-Ashi candle. How you get to this is you're going to go up here. Your regular candles are here. You go down to the Heikin-Ashi candles, and you'll notice that it just gives you really a good idea of the trend. Here's your regular candles. You know, it's a little more cluttered, it's a little more noisy, a little more all over the place. These Heikin-Ashi candles kind of smooth things out, give you a better idea of the trend. And it looks like we're going to post our first green candle on these Heikin-Ashi candles since the last like 7 or 8 days. Going over to smaller time frames, you'll see that we broke out of this pattern. We're starting to see a little red. We're starting to find resistance here at the 200 MA. So according to the 1 hour, it looks like we're starting a little retracement. But looking at the daily, we have the potential for a reversal soon. Typically, you'll see these candles where you have a wick on both sides. Some people call these types of candles like a doji. I'm not the biggest candlestick pattern guy, but typically with the Heikin-Ashis, you'll see a candle like this, and then you'll see a candle next to it without a shadow underneath. I'll give you an example. Here's kind of an example here. You see this candle with a wick on both sides, and then you see a candle with no wick on the bottom side, and a good sized candle, indicating a change in direction. And these tend to work on the downside too. You'll see this candle with a wick on both directions, another candle with no wick on the top side, and we started a little downtrend. So next thing I'm watching for here, at least for these Heikin-Ashi candles, is a good green candle, a good large candle specifically, and no shadow wick underneath it. This may indicate the beginning of a new uptrend. There's a lot of examples where you can use these candles and trade. Here's another example here. We saw a doji type candle, a wick on both sides, and then we saw another candle with no real shadow wick underneath. Could have gone long here. We have another one indicating the reversal of this uptrend. We saw a candle with a wick on both sides, and then a bearish candle with no wick on top, indicating the beginning of a downtrend. Typically, using these Heikin-Ashi candles, they seem like good indications of the trend shifting. So keep an eye on Bitcoin with these Heikin-Ashi candles and look for, an indication of this trend shifting, a change in trend, a change in direction. Also, obviously, this descending resistance that we're watching, I want to see a candle actually close out of it. Zooming out to smaller time frames, you'll see that we did break out of this pattern. However, we're finding resistance here at the 50 MA. And we're either going to come back into this pattern or we're going to bounce on that resistance. It might flip as support. So keep an eye on that. It's roughly 62.5 area probably. Depends on, the timeline of when we test it, but right around this 62,005, look for a bounce, a break over these previous levels. Now we'll talk about the bearish Bitcoin news and then the bullish Bitcoin news. First off, Bitcoin spot ETFs registered the 5th day withdrawal streak ahead of the halving, with of course GBTC leading the outflows while inflows from BlackRock's IBIT actually slow. And BlackRock's IBIT yesterday only saw 18.8 million, and by yesterday I mean Thursday. You might be watching this a different day obviously. So their inflows have been slowing down a little bit. You'll see that in the beginning of April we had a lot of these over 100 million in inflow days. Now we're down to 18 million. We've had that a couple days in a row now. You'll also notice, if I can get this stupid thing out of the way, you'll also notice that GBTC selling has come down a bit. We haven't seen these 300 million in outflow days like we did early April, so that's good. But yeah, as we're approaching the halving, we're seeing overall outflows from these Bitcoin ETFs. I would be a little hesitant here. I think this is just a little bit of a hype pump. I would be careful. I do expect Bitcoin to rally over the rest of this year. But the halving isn't necessarily going to be like things rally right after the halving. You have to give them time. I would be careful here. The miners are also pumping into the halving. All I'm saying is exercise caution. And let me remind you guys, these are going to flip soon. GBTC is now sitting under 19.5 billion. And IBIT's total net assets right now on their Bitcoin spot ETF is 17.2, nearly 17.3 billion. They're closing in on that 2 billion. Soon they are going to be 1 billion away. In the following weeks, soon they will flip. And this is the next upcoming catalyst for the market for Bitcoin, in my opinion, after the halving. I also want to talk about something very bullish for Bitcoin. Accumulators, holders, moved 1.7 billion into accumulation wallets during this Bitcoin dip. And a record 27,700 Bitcoin was sent to accumulation addresses on April 16th. See this guy here? He's looking at Bitcoin, speculating and accumulating. And this is, yes, this is a new record. The last record was 25,500 Bitcoin sent to these accumulation addresses in a single day. And that was on March 23rd this year. Now, what qualifies as an accumulation address? Well, that would be a wallet that shows no previous withdrawals and holds a balance of over 10 Bitcoin. And these wallets have been screened so that they don't include Bitcoin miners, things like crypto exchanges. And you'll see these blue lines here. These are the inflows into these accumulation addresses. You'll see that they have been just absolutely spiking recently. Now is the time to be a hodler. Now, I want to show you guys Btbt. Looks like we're heading back to our previous support. Might play out as a strong resistance. We are right at that like $2 here. We have a long history of maintaining this as a support. We did recently break it, but we'll see how quickly the market brings it back up and holds it as support again. Maybe it fails and we head back down. Maybe this was simply a liquidity grab as we approach the halving, as we get a little bit of hype for the miners, and then we sell off afterwards. If that's the case, we have some buying opportunities ahead. If the miners pump from here, I'm probably not going to be a buyer for all that much longer. Now, bringing the Heikin-Ashi candles over to Btbt, you'll see that we have had just consistent selling, consistent red candles. We saw our first green candle here today. This may be the beginning of a shift in momentum. But for now, I would still follow this trend line. You know, we might find resistance here and keep heading down. Keep an eye on this descending resistance. We have not yet broken out of it. Also, I want to show you guys, if we start heading up, keep an eye on these moving averages. We do find resistance and test them. You'll see that we found resistance on the 200 MA here. You'll see on the way back down, we found resistance on the 50 MA, couldn't break out. If we do start heading back up, keep an eye on how we do at the 50 MA. This is right around 250 currently. According to TradingView, BTBT's earnings is coming out in only a few days, the 25th of April. And as I said previously, they are expecting a profit. They are expecting nice growth in revenue, $27.7 million revenue compared to a $16 million reported last time. This is mostly due to their huge AI growth that they've been experiencing lately. And that's going to be a huge thing to listen to on earnings is, what do they have going on with AI? What are their thoughts around AI? How are they going to continue expanding this? Is this going to be a bigger part of the business? It's already shaping out to be. These are going to be important things to listen to in the call. They will enlighten us. Also, forward guidance. Are they going to expect a profitable quarter after the halving has taken effect into the next earnings? That's going to be another huge thing to listen to. But keep an eye out for Btbt. It is one of the first miners to post earnings. Also, looking at CleanSpark, we broke out of this downtrend. Looks like we're trying to break out of the 50 MA. And let's bring the Heikin-Ashis out over here. Check it out. Perfect reversal. We see this candle with two shadow wicks on both sides, and then you see another bullish green candle with no shadow wick on the downside. This might be the beginning of a trend reversal. We have the breakout of this descending channel, and we have the Heikin-Ashis telling us that the uptrend is beginning. I think what will be important here, though, is watching how we do with the 50 MA. We might find resistance on it and head down a little further. Of course, with the halving coming, we might see the miners tank. As I've been saying, you know, for the last couple months, I think the halving is going to be a sell the rumor, buy the news type of event. You saw the miners sell off in anticipation of it. Many miners are down 50-60%, some cases more. But, you know, if we're going to see a pump right before the halving takes effect, I personally would expect a little pullback afterwards. But who knows? You know, I might be wrong. We might see a pump after the halving as well. It does look like we're starting to see a reversal. Looking at shorter term time frames for CleanSpark, we are approaching overbought. Wouldn't be surprised to see a little retracement right after the halving on Monday or something. CleanSpark's another one with earnings approaching a little bit after Btbt. This is going to be early May where this comes out. They're expecting $107 million nearly. Their first quarter, that's going to be over 100 million. And this is over a $25 million growth in revenue quarter over quarter. That's pretty huge. Also expecting another profitable quarter. I would expect that as well. Last quarter was profitable, and this was where Bitcoin was around 40,000 or so. Under for most of the time, actually. This quarter, Bitcoin was at, you know, 40,000 to 70,000. I'd expect them to see a profitable quarter. What's going to be big with their earnings also, just like with Btbt, obviously, forward guidance. Are they going to see a profitable quarter after the halving has taken effect? I would assume that if Bitcoin is a little bit higher in price by this point, they could give some good forward guidance based on a higher Bitcoin price. and they might give a profitable quarter expectation. I also want to talk about Riot very briefly. This is another one I hold. This is another one that I think is a good buy here. We're bouncing off of oversold on the RSI on the daily. And similar to Btbt, you know, we broke this strong support. Btbt strong support was at $2. It very briefly broke under that. Riot support here was right around $9. It did break that, head all the way down to a little under 8. Looks like it's starting to recover. I do think if we can start heading up, once we get kind of to this level here, we're probably going to see either a W, a double bottom, or somewhat of a cup and handle. And then we're probably going to try to go for our gap right here. This could be a great target if we do start breaking up over this pattern here. If we do see a double bottom, look for a push towards our gap fill around $11. We also have a little gap on the downside. If we start pulling back, look for a gap down to 820 area. And if you're looking to play this short term on a swing towards this gap fill, I would probably set a stop loss right under our previous low. If we do break this low, we're probably going to start falling even more. And looking at the Heikinashis here, we're finally seeing our first green candle after nothing but red. I would want to see more here. I'm not convinced that this is the reversal, at least according to Heikinashi. But there are some great examples of where you could have gone long or short here. You'll see this candle with a shadow on both sides, and then we got a down candle with no shadow on top, indicating a change in momentum. You'll see it again here. We had two candles where we had shadows on both sides, a down candle with no shadow on top, indicating a pullback. And to the upside, you started seeing these green candles. You got a green candle without no shadow underneath, and we started that green uptrend. But let me know what you guys think about the Heikinashi candles. I'm pretty new to them, but let me know if you guys have used them successfully in trading. It does seem like a good way to kind of indicate the beginning of a shift in direction, give you a good idea where the trend is going. But let me know if you've ever seen those candles before. Also, how are you feeling as we approach the halving? Do you think this is the beginning of a fake out? The Bitcoin miners are now rallying up to the halving. We've seen nothing but red recently, except for the last 2 days have been green right before the halving. This could be the beginning of our post-halving rally, or this could be a fake out. I would be cautious here with the miners. I wouldn't be surprised to see a little pullback right after the halving, a little final shakeout before they go on to create new 52-week highs. I think the big thing for these miners is going to be earnings, and this is going to be for the most part in May for most of them. So that's going to be a huge catalyst for the Bitcoin miners. If we can see most of them posting profitable quarters, see good forward guidance, we could see a nice rally for the miners as a whole. But let me know how you guys are feeling as we approach the halving. Hopefully you guys have a good weekend. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.